you can text on 81771, because we're talking about enduring power of attorney and lasting power of attorney. Which one is right for you? And why has the Law Society been arguing to keep the enduring power of attorney instead of the LPA, the lasting power? Michael Robinson, former president of the Law Society, is with me, and solicitor. And I see in a press release this week, Michael, that it's being described as a victory for common sense and consumer choice. Why? What were the problems that you foresaw?
Well, firstly, Linda, it's great to come back and talk about this issue, because I know that you on your programme have been monitoring this issue very closely over the last year or so.
We have, and we've been grateful to the Law Society for working with us.
That's right, and I think on at least 4 occasions I've been here talking about this issue, which has been before Stormont, with a view to carrying out a review and possibly a reform and abandoning enduring powers of attorney. Enduring powers of attorney are a document that allows you, while you have capacity and while you can do it, to appoint people of your choice to act for you in relation to your property and affairs in the event that you become mentally incapable.
It's quite a reasonable price and quite simple to do.
It's a proportionate and very inexpensive document to prepare. You can do it yourself, or you can do it through a solicitor or someone else in Northern Ireland. And
did we have lasting power of attorney here as well?
No, we don't. There has been a review at Stormont about bringing in lasting powers of attorney, which are really an English system. And in England, these documents, lasting powers of attorney, which are a similar document, but they're 10 times or 20 times more complex. They're extremely expensive to operate. They're extremely expensive to undertake in the first place. And the argument is that if you go into a solicitor's office and he turns around to you and says it's going to cost £750 to prepare a lasting power of attorney, which you may need in 30 years' time, but we don't know, are you really going to prepare that document? Whereas if you come into my office and I say to you, I can prepare an enduring power of attorney, it's probably going to cost something like £100. You're more likely to do it, far more likely to do it.
Or you could do it on your own.
Or you could do it on your own. And we do a significant number of enduring powers of attorney, and probably of all of those we probably use 10 or 15% at some stage, so they are of significant benefit to individuals and members of the public.
So is that a decision now that lasting power of attorney will be here alongside enduring power of attorney, or what will we have?
Well, that's my understanding. There was a full review carried out by the Justice Minister and the Department of Health, and I know that your programme did a lot of lobbying about it, which was excellent work. The Law Society did that, and other organisations have done lobbying on this precise point, and it appears now that they have accepted that maintaining the enduring power of attorney alongside this new lasting power of attorney is a proportionate and reasonable thing to do for members of the public and in the public interest in Northern Ireland, and we are absolutely delighted that that decision has been made.
So enduring power of attorney is a fairly simple document. It deals with the financial aspects of someone's affairs.
Yes, it deals with property and finances purely.
And it's something you would draw up at any stage while a person's well and up themselves, as I would say in Northern Ireland.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, if a client comes in to see me now about a will, we automatically do an enduring power of attorney, because it is such a valuable document. And I know from coming on your programme that every time I've talked about this, your phones go red hot, and that's a real surprise to me. It was a real surprise the first time that I came in.
Well, the phone lines are open 030 30 80 55 55 if you have a question for Michael Robinson, because people do have a lot of questions, and to be fair, they don't want to go and ask a solicitor in case it costs them money, so when you're here they think, well, great.
Always delighted to help, Linda, but it just shows the level of interest in it, the fact that when you do something on it, it generates such public interest.
So say you're well and at yourself and you think, yes, we're in the solicitor's office, we'll take out an enduring power of attorney. It just sits there for some time until it's needed.
Yes, effectively, it is effective from the point that you use it. So if for some reason you're on holiday for 6 months and you need your attorneys to do something, you can actually use the attorney while you're competent. But if you become mentally incapable, your attorneys are legally obliged to register the power of attorney in court. And then once they've registered it, they can register it with financial institutions or whoever, and they can then act on your behalf in relation to your affairs.
And what protection is there for me, for say for example, the person that my relatives aren't taking all my money and selling my house and doing things I wouldn't want to do?
Well, I know you've had questions about that. If it's registered, then the courts have a power and a duty to monitor what happens with it, and they can come in and investigate if someone makes a complaint as to whether or not the attorney is being used properly and appropriately. Now, if someone uses it inappropriately and they haven't registered it when you're mentally incompetent, well then that's a fraud issue, and that is a very significant issue. There are there are convoluted methods of bringing that before a court, but that's also something that I would be reporting to PSN. If I was a family member and I thought that the attorney was being improperly used and hadn't been registered in court and wasn't therefore being monitored, I think I would probably, as a first point of call, challenge whoever's doing that. But if I wasn't getting a satisfactory answer, I might very well look to the police because it would be fraudulent, or I might write to the financial institutions with whom the power of attorney is being used and notify them that you don't think that the attorney is or the attorney has been registered and has been improperly used, and they, I think, then would take action on it. So there are various protections which can be put in place to make sure that the attorney has been properly used. And
of course, you can leave it till it's too late. I remember interviewing someone recently whose husband had been quite well and then suddenly went downhill, and by that time it was too late. So when it was registered, then they had to go back and forwards to court. It got terribly expensive. I'm going to bring in Heather Monteverdi at this point from Macmillan Cancer, because we'll be talking a little more after the news at 10 o'clock and hearing from one particularly brave woman, Liz, who's living with cancer, who has already made plans. But it's part of an excellent booklet that you have that Macmillan has published, I think, the year before last, Your Life and Your Choices, Plan Ahead. Things like enduring power of attorney is something you would encourage not just people who've had a diagnosis, but anybody to think about.
Yes, I think very much the culture is in Northern Ireland. We leave all these things until a crisis happens, and when someone becomes ill, particularly towards the end of life, it can all be a bit of a drama. And it's actually quite difficult when they're already coping with illness and maybe aren't just in the health and strength that they were. So what we would be encouraging people to do is to talk about this when they're well with their families. So enduring power of attorney, as you mentioned, is one of the things, but it's things about wills, organ donation, where you would like to be cared for at the end of your life, who you would like to care for you, and really just to have those discussions with your family, right down to the basics of perhaps funeral arrangements. Would you want to be cremated or buried? Because those things become real issues for some families that have never been discussed.
It's an excellent booklet, Michael. I know that you've been impressed by the simplicity of the way it's laid out. It goes right through everything from making a will, advanced care plans, and if you have questions on these kinds of things, the phone lines are open. But advanced decisions to refuse treatment, that kind of thing. A lot to think about, and the way it's laid out, I must say, does make it easier to talk and to maybe broach difficult subjects with family members at what will be a very difficult time. Just tell me, Heather, because we're going to get questions about this booklet. Where is it available?
The booklet should be available across libraries in Northern Ireland, and it's available from Macmillan Information Centres, but it's also available to order online. And what I would emphasise, this is not just for people who have cancer. This is for everyone. It's being developed with the Public Health Agency for anyone.
And we'll talk more after the news, because we'll be talking about planning ahead, as Heather Monteverdi says, and the links are on our website as well if you'd like to follow the links to Macmillan Cancer, but it's not just about that. Liz, who's been living with cancer, has been thinking a lot, and she's already decided.
I know quite a few people who don't like to face it, but I also know quite a few people like myself who's planned everything from your will to your funeral plans to, you know, the practicalities of, for example, my daughter, trying to get her prepared. I think preparing your family, yeah.
And we'll hear more from Liz and my guests after the news. It's 10 o'clock. And welcome back to On Your Behalf, Linda McCauley with you. And before 10, we've been talking about difficult issues, actually. We've been talking about planning ahead, your life and your choices, about enduring power of attorney and lasting power of attorney. I'll also be talking to the Pensioners Parliament in this next half hour, and talking to Macmillan Cancer. And spokesman for the Law Society, Michael Robinson, is with me. So we have a lot of questions coming in, and we're going to try and answer them before the end of the programme. 030 30 80 55 55, text 81771, or email oyb@bbc.co.uk. Because there are decisions many of us will have to face about what kind of medical care we want or we don't want. Now, Liz doesn't see herself as brave, but when you hear her story, you might agree with me. I think she's an inspiration.
I was first diagnosed in 1999. I had just turned 39. And then 8 years later, I was told it had spread to my liver. I had 5 large tumours ranging between the size of a golf ball and a tennis ball.
So it began in your breast?
It began in my breast. It was metastatic breast cancer in my liver. But I also had cancer in my uterus, which was another primary cancer. So I was in America at the time, and they told me there's nothing they could do for me. and they'd only had 3 to 4 months to live. So
how long ago was that?
In 2008.
Well, you proved them wrong.
Yeah, well, the doctors and nurses here proved them wrong, because my oncologist said, although he didn't disagree with the prognosis, that he would at least try and do something. And I'm now 8 years from told I've 3 to 4 months to live, and I've lost exact count, but I've had over 70 chemotherapies and other hormone treatments. So.
And those are gruelling, aren't they?
Yeah, some are worse than others. Yeah, but it's worth it. It's worth it.
So you've been living with cancer for a long time, really, and a long time to think about what that means to you and your family. You have children, grandchildren?
We have 1 daughter and 2 grandchildren.
So there's no point in pretending a diagnosis of cancer doesn't just affect the person, it affects the entire family.
Because I've been here for a lot longer than was expected, I've had plenty of time to think about all that, and plenty of time. When I was first told I was dying, you're too busy thinking about what happens next, how long am I going to last, but to start even thinking about practical things, you know. So,
is that your first thought when you're told that?
Yeah, my first thought is I don't want to die. Then, of course, you start thinking about your family, how are they going to manage without you, and then I say the longevity of my illness, you get time to think about all the other stuff that you, like bucket lists. I'm on my 3rd one, and all stuff like that. So yeah,
you've ticked an awful lot of things off your bucket list that you wanted to do. What was top of it, actually, as a matter of interest?
Top of my bucket list was reaching my 50th birthday. Mm-hmm. That was number 1, reaching my 50th, because I was 48 at the time, so 2 years to last. And I thought, reach my 50th, and I think people think bucket lists are like going and flying out of airplanes. Yeah, I mean, I've done bungee jumping, I've done zip lining, I've been on safari, I've been on cruises. I've done all the sort of the things you think of as a bucket list, but
those aren't the really important things, are they?
No, the important things are your family.
So on your list for your family, obviously your bucket list would be very high up. Would it be there for your family, to be there for your grandchildren, to see them go to school, to see them get married, whatever those different things are in each particular person. But you also have to put plans down on paper. And the booklet, and it's an excellent booklet from Macmillan, is about making plans for advanced care plans, for enduring power of attorney, advanced decisions to refuse treatment. There's a lot to think about in those areas, because that's your planning for the end.
Yes, I think in the situation where they now call it incurable cancer, you've got to be aware of thinking what to do next. And your family, I know quite a few people who don't like to face it, but I also know quite a few people like myself who's planned everything from your will to your funeral plans, to, the practicalities of, for example, my daughter, trying to get her prepared. I think preparing your family, yeah.
Preparing is a mental thing, but as you say, also a physical thing, because you're talking about a will. You also maybe want to think about making a living will, about how you want your well, all of us, how we want our final days to be, what kind of treatment we want, what kind of treatment we don't want, things like that, whether you want to be able to refuse treatment and you want to in advance say, this is when I don't want any more. Those are very, very serious things to think about. And I imagine at some stage in the wee small hours of the morning, you've thought about them all.
I've not only thought about them, they're all organised. Okay. So I've got Do Not Resuscitate, I've got a living will, I'm an avid supporter of dignity and dying. I've discussed all of these with all my doctors, and I've left everybody who needs a copy of my living will and needs my wishes known. They've already been told. My family's all been told. That I wrote them all a letter because it was easier doing that. And say my doctors have all been told, so I'm all organised.
People I've talked to about this booklet say it gave them an opportunity to talk to family, because you could actually say, look at this, this chapter, Enduring Power of Attorney, for example, in Section 4. It opened up the gates to have the conversations, to make sure things were drawn up legally, so that in the case where any of us might be, where we couldn't manage our own financial affairs, that someone could take over. Does a booklet like that help to open up the areas with people who really don't want to think about it?
I think not only the booklet opens up the areas, but it actually lets people know things that they never even entered their mind. I mean, I knew exactly what I wanted to happen, at my end of life, but I didn't know the whys and wherefores about it. And a booklet like that tells you how to do things, tells you how to, for power of attorney, it tells you how, go about thinking about doing your will, and they're just invaluable, I think.
Did you work your way through it? Did you think, step by step, this is the way I want things to go? I mean, we don't want it to happen now, obviously, but there'll come a day for us all. It's a reality.
No, I know it's a reality. Every day is a bonus. I haven't worked my way through the book simply because I'd already looked into it all, mostly on Macmillan website and stuff like that, and I knew a lot of what. I'm quite a strong-minded person, and I knew that I didn't want to just pop off and have nothing arranged. I didn't want to leave my family racing around once I'm gone to try and organise everything. So I organised it all myself.
Is it empowering to take those decisions yourself?
For some, yes. For others, they just don't even want to think about it.
Well, you've worked as a volunteer with Macmillan, and you've obviously talked to other people. Do you find that some people are just so different in the way that they're reacting, or is it a stage, perhaps?
I think when your first diagnosis of any cancer, I was the same right back in 1999. I was diagnosed with cancer, I'd done my treatment, and as far as I was concerned, I was done with it. I think mostly people with metastatic cancer, secondary, where it's spread elsewhere, they think a lot more about it. Some of them still don't want to talk about it. A lot of them have a lot of cancer friends, and some of us can discuss it, and others just don't want to know.
And of course, with everything, if someone's not ready to listen, there's no point in telling them.
It's true, you can't make people listen. It depends on the person. Everybody's different. I cope with things how I cope with them, and it's just my nature. It doesn't mean somebody who doesn't do what I do is fighting any harder or have the will to live any less. It's just, you do it the way you can, and everybody's different. And sometimes you wish you could help people. Some people don't want to be helped. But I think rather than talking about the likes of that wee booklet, they go off quietly and read it themselves, maybe be a wee bit easier on them.
And thank you, Liz, for talking to me, because I think your words will help a lot of people. Heather Monteverdi of Macmillan Cancer is listening, and Liz is strong and brave and facing the future, but she has made plans.
Yes, and firstly I'd like to say thank you to Liz for sharing her story, and I think it will provoke discussions maybe in many households today across Northern Ireland. I think it's two things have struck me in what she said. Everybody is different, but this is about preparing yourself and preparing your family. And there is that sense of empowerment for some people that they actually can feel they've got all their affairs in order, their wishes are clear, and it's one thing that they can put to the side and get on with the rest of their lives, whatever time is left. But I think the other thing is that for the family, there can be a real sense at the end of life when they're grieving and arranging funerals, etc., knowing they're following through on their loved one's last wishes. And it can actually be a real sense of this is the last thing and we've done exactly what they want, and there's no big family trauma. Should we do this? Should we do that? Etc. And it can be quite a healing thing for a family, as well as being empowering for the patient who has done it.
I know that this book is produced by Macmillan Cancer, but it's not just about people with a cancer diagnosis. It's really for everyone and anyone.
Yes, absolutely. And the book has been developed in partnership with colleagues at the Public Health Agency, and it is very much for anyone who is healthy and well, never mind anyone who has an illness that they're coping with. And it really is a tool, as we have heard, that people can work their way through. They can dip in and out of it and just maybe have it as a resource to raise those issues for themselves and to give them the confidence then to share their wishes with those that are close to them and with their GP, which I think is quite important. Some people, as Liz has said, find it difficult to talk to their family, but this is the sort of thing you could take to your GP and discuss it with your GP and have it documented in your notes.
And I gather the last time you were in the studio and we heard from a woman, she and her husband had left it too late in his illness to get the enduring power of attorney sorted out. You had a conversation with your own mother.
Yes, and I think it's an opportunity just to bring the booklet and talk to family members. And, you know, and I know there are a lot of people, and certainly a lot of my colleagues in Macmillan have been able to use the booklet, you know, and sort of, this is something new we have, you might be interested, which then can lead to other conversations.
So things like advanced decisions to refuse treatment and directives and do not resuscitate and things like that, if you write those down, are they legally binding? Michael, if you decide you want to put something down like that on paper, can that be held as a legally binding document?
Well, there's a very complex legal position with regard to that, and I've looked at this really excellent booklet and highly commended from Macmillan Cancer. We do things in the office called living wills, and there's some debate about whether they're actually legally enforceable or not. Now, under the proposals being brought by Stormont, where they are thankfully retaining the simple enduring power of attorney, they will bring in a more expensive lasting power of attorney. The property aspects of that, we say, are best dealt with under the enduring power because it's cheap. But the second aspect of that is that you can and will be able to, at some stage in the future, enter into lasting power of attorney to deal with advanced directives with regard to health and welfare and care, and decisions with regard to what would happen if you go into hospital, and that will become a legally binding document. So I suppose in all of this process, we're delighted that Stormont is going to bring in the lasting power of attorney to deal with those very difficult issues.
More complex.
But we're delighted also that they have retained the more simple procedure for property and finances.
The booklet, again, Heather, a lot of people are asking, Your Life and Your Choices, Plan Ahead. There's links on our website to Macmillan where you can get the booklet. How else can you get it?
The libraries across Northern Ireland, so all 96 libraries have Macmillan resources, and they should be available from libraries.
So the booklet is available. You can also get it online, and the links are on our website. But a lot of people maybe won't have access to internet links, so go pop into your local library. Or can you ring Macmillan?
There is a helpline, and it's probably more simple if you actually have a cancer diagnosis to ring the helpline, and that number is 0808 808 0000.
0808 0800. No, give me again.
0808 808 0000.
Okay, lots of 8s and 0s. Our phone and operators will keep that to hand, and I'll give it out at the end of the programme as well. A lot of questions coming in for you, Michael Robinson, spokesman for the Law Society. Are there any downsides to setting up a power of attorney, says Dan?
No.
No downsides. I know we've been asked a lot about this question, the difference between enduring and lasting power of attorney. But just to summarise it, enduring is financial.
Well, enduring is financial. Lasting is financial as well. Lasting is the procedure that they brought in England, which is extremely complex. Those documents run to 90-odd pages.
So financial plus...
But as part of that, you can also do a lasting power of attorney, which will come in Belfast, which allows you to deal with your health and welfare, which is the aspect that you've been talking about this morning. We think that's a great advance. But the old enduring power of attorney, which is the simple document, very inexpensive to prepare, and we say that the fact that...
How much? That's a question. What does it cost to register it?
Well, registering the document itself probably costs, I think it's £115 in court fees. To prepare it through a solicitor, it's probably just going to cost you probably about £100 or something. If you do the lasting power in England, they range from £750,000, £1,500, and people just don't do them at that price.
Mm-hmm. A gentleman says, my wife and I have an enduring power of attorney here in Northern Ireland, but we're thinking about going to live in England with our family. Would it still be valid there?
Yes, when they changed the law in England and they removed the right to do enduring powers of attorney, they kept in the residual right to recognise those documents which were already prepared.
And Lisburn Man says, I've got power of attorney, but the solicitor's now gone out of business. Is it still valid? And where is it?
Well, I've seen that question. If this gentleman doesn't have it, Linda, the Law Society will keep a database of where the solicitor's assets have gone to. No solicitor in this jurisdiction can go out of business without his assets being transferred somewhere. And if the gentleman doesn't know where the original document is because the solicitor kept it before he went out of business, if he contacts the Law Society, they will have a track and a trace of where all of those original documents have gone to.
When you take one out, should you be given a copy yourself, or does it just live with the solicitor? You know where you get a copy of your will sometimes?
Yeah, well, they're a valuable document if you lose it. If you lose it and then you lose mental capacity, there was no point doing it in the first place. So most people would leave it with their solicitor. The solicitor probably would give them a copy of it, and if I'd received a copy from my solicitor, I would give it to family members so that they knew that I had prepared it and that there was a document available. But I think it's like a will. If you lose it, it's too late to replace it if you're not competent, so it's better to leave it somewhere safe.
And final question for now. I've tried to get a form to get power of attorney, says Sheila. How do I go about this? Where do you get the form? Can you get a form online and do it yourself? Or
you can do that, or I assume you go to CAB or you go to the local library. It's quite a straightforward form. There are one or two small quirks in it, and if you get the quirks wrong and you make the wrong choices in the form, you could invalidate it. So of preference, I would have said go to a solicitor or someone with some knowledge when you're doing it. But theoretically, you could do it yourself. But I think to be absolutely safe, you're probably better to get someone with a professional eye to look at it, because there are certain aspects of it. If you get it wrong, you can make the document invalid. This
question came in yesterday, I think probably after listeners had heard me talking about what we'd be doing on the programme to Stephen Nolan yesterday morning. He says his mother has an enduring power of attorney and through time lost her mental capacity. 2 siblings were appointed, but he says I and others had concern about the management of her affairs by those attorneys. I contacted the Office of Care and Protection and informed them of my concerns, and they informed me they couldn't investigate the matter because the appointed attorneys had not registered the enduring power of attorney at the court. So his question is it illegal not to register an enduring power of attorney when the donor has lost mental capacity?
It is, and we touched on this earlier on. If I was this person, I would firstly I'd have a very strong talk with my siblings before I did anything, but it is fraudulent to use a power of attorney when someone hasn't got capacity and you haven't registered it in court. So, there are sanctions for that. PSNI, and as I said to you before, one of the simple sanctions is to write to the financial institutions yourself and say this attorney is being used. I don't think it should be, and as a prudent measure they will stop the use of it immediately until that's clarified. So I think there are a range of options. There's an expensive option to go to court, which you can do, but I think there's simpler things to do. But it's sad, I have to say, if it gets to the stage we have to report to the PSNI family members, but you should be doing it. It's very important that you protect the assets of someone without capacity, and if you believe they're not being administered properly and appropriately, you really should be taking action, no matter how painful and difficult that is in the family circumstance.
And just finally for now, the difference between controllership, that controllership is a legal thing when the court takes control?
Yes, the power of attorney, the benefit of that is that you choose while you're competent someone who looks after your affairs. If you become incompetent, controllership is the default option. If you don't make the choice, then someone on your behalf, if you become incompetent, can apply to the court, but it's a really expensive process. So the message again this morning is that you should be doing the enduring power of attorney while you have capacity, because it's so inexpensive and the benefits are fantastic.
And the benefits to having made those decisions early, Heather Monteverdi of Macmillan Cancer, it helps settle the mind, shall we say.
Yes, and I think anyone living with an illness, regardless of what it is, has a lot to contend with medication, with treatment, with hospital visits, etc. And for a lot of people to have their affairs in order and to be clear what they want done or don't want done more pertinently sometimes can be a huge relief to them.
So the booklet works right the way through, and I'll say the name again, Your Life and Your Choices, Plan Ahead, from making a will, advanced care plans, enduring power of attorney, decisions to refuse treatment, organ and tissue donation, and your plans for after you die, and managing your care. It covers all of life.
It does. And I think quite often what happens at end of life for people, a lot of people get admitted to hospital, and that's perhaps not where they would have chosen to have been. And sometimes just to have made it clear, to have had that discussion with their family and their GP, that if at all possible they would like to be cared for at home, may change some of the decisions that are made by family and health professionals on their behalf.
It's also available in libraries. And Ivan Baxter's been sitting here quite peacefully, delegate for the Northern Ireland Pensioners Parliament. And Ivan, while we were talking about this, you said to me, you've done all of that. What have you taken out?
Yes, well, I'm a widower, and I live on my own. My family's split between Scotland, England, and Northern Ireland. And about 10 years ago, I went along to my solicitor and I made my will. I made an enduring power of attorney, and I arranged my funeral. So I have all of that done, and I'm in reasonably good health. You know, it was a matter of getting this prepared and out of the way, and there's no reason why people have to wait until they're ill before they do this. They can go ahead and do it now.
You're saying you made it, and I'm assuming you went to a solicitor.
I did.
Sydney's saying these things aren't difficult, and the man from the Law Society is scratching his own back by referring people to a solicitor. Linda challenged him. Well, can I not do it myself, Michael?
You can, and I've already said you can. Certainly an enduring power of attorney is quite a straightforward document. There are options in that, and if you get them wrong, it invalidates the document, but the listener could absolutely do it himself. And so I would recommend that you either get professional advice and do it, or you do it yourself. But everybody, the message I think is from all of the panel today, go out and do one, whether it's through a solicitor or whether you get a document somewhere else, do one.
And Ivan Baxter from the Northern Ireland Pensioners Parliament, do you talk about this, Matt, these issues with your Parliament when you're together?
Yes, that issue does come up from time to time, but I must say it hasn't been a high priority for folk. You know, it's maybe something that people just do not like to think about.
Yes. What do you talk about at the Pensioners Parliament, and who listens to you? You do a lot of talking, because I've been there quite frequently.
Yes, we do. Well, the Pensioners Parliament is organised by a charity called the Age Sector Platform that lobbies on behalf of older people. And we started these parliaments about 5 years ago. We had one in each county.
And now you've got Belfast. One in every council area.
And now we're moving out into council areas because the council will be reorganised, and we're slightly modifying the format of the Pensioners Parliaments as well to take into account the fact that we have local issues to deal with and Stormont issues to deal with.
But do they listen?
Oh yes, they most certainly do.
In what way have you made a difference?
Well, we have, first of all, if I just say, the purpose of the Parliament is to give older people their voice. Well,
it's good to talk, but
yes.
You'd like to think that there was action as well. And you are called a Parliament, and yes. You dubbed yourself as that.
Well, it accumulates in a central Parliament in Belfast. And last week or the week before, we were at Stormont, where we had a Pensioners Parliament, and we had ministers answering us particular questions that we had sent in, and the ministers came to the podium and gave us their answers. And of course they feel under pressure in a public situation like that to do something for pensioners. And yes, we have over the years managed to achieve quite a few things.
There'll be people listening who'll be thinking, they've got their pension, they got their pension before I'm going to get my pension, they've got their bus pass, they've got their fuel allowance, they're sitting happy and they're moaning. What about younger working people? I mean, why should pensioners get any better treatment than anybody else?
Well, it's not really a question of priority for pensioners. What we're looking at is a question of fairness, and we certainly do not want to become involved in some sort of phony intergenerational war. One would hope that in due course everyone will get old.
But they won't all get their pension when pensioners got them. I'm waiting. I pushed back. I feel quite strongly about this one.
Well, yes, you're quite true. That's quite true that the pension age has been increased over the last number of years, and one of the reasons for that is a very good reason, is that pensioners are living longer, and that's not something that we should put down. It's something that we should be proud of. But it does mean that pensioners are more healthy and more able to carry on with what they're doing. So the government have decided to do this. It wasn't our decision, we didn't like it, but yes, they decided they would do that.
If you want to be a member of the Parliament, can you join in?
Of course you can. You can get in touch with the Age Sector Platform, which is 028 9031 2089.
And the links are on our website to your website. It's probably easier than giving out a website, which is difficult to read.
Well, there's a separate Pensioners Parliament website.
Well, we'll put the links up on our website as well, which will make a difference. Yes. Well, good luck with your incoming year. I just want to squeeze in the last question to Solicitor Michael Robinson. If you make a brand new will with a new solicitor, do you have to cancel the original one you made?
No, the new will automatically invalidates the old one.
So just the new one will now be the one that will come into account. And Heather Monteverdi of Macmillan Cancer, the leaflet again is available in libraries from the Macmillan website. 0808 808 0000 is the number. Again, our phone and operators have that too. Thank you all for being with me this morning. It's a difficult subject to broach, but very well worth talking about while people are well and healthy. You can listen to the programme again on the website if you want to download the podcast, if you want to hear this again anytime over the next 30 days. And of course, you can ring the listener line during the week if you'd like our help. 90338314 is the number. Or you can indeed, we're talking about benefits next week with the CAB. You can email oyb@bbc.co.uk. So for now, from the team, Veronica Hughes, Louisa McCartney, me, Linda McCauley, and my guest, thank you for coming in this morning. Goodbye.